All right. Hello again. This is Chad Everett Brochures, and I am the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. And today we are going to go over why start something, especially why start something that is a life self-entitled purpose or self-developed, self-declared purpose. So, all right, let's get at it because I hear this pretty regularly. People love to kind of sell themselves out, sell themselves short. They don't have enough belief in themselves. There's plenty of things that people love to do. And I see it all the time. I am not a fan of the idea of fate or destiny at all. Taylor's getting a snack. Yeah, I'm not a fan of fate or destiny at all. I believe that those are some of the quickest cop-outs. They're fairy tale concepts, and they're disempowering to me. People sell themselves out so damn quick, or once they finally get up enough fuel, they feel that that's it, and that's the only thing it can be for themselves. And it's just so disempowering to me. I'd rather just say, okay, well, this is what I want to do with my life. Let me build it from this point. I try as many things as I can to the limitations of what I have available to me. So, if I haven't, Taylor, can you get your snack in a little bit, baby? That silly dog. So if I've tried, everything, let's consider the idea of a child, 8-year-old that's playing fantasy of what they want to do with their life. If I'd made up my mind at 8 years old exactly what I wanted to do with my life, I'd be a firefighter and a paleontologist. Probably a couple other jobs too, because I did like to fantasize a little bit about what the adult me would be like. Hell, even scientist. There was a good deal of time I wanted to be that as well. So if I were left with those devices and that be the only thing that I was allowed to do, because at 8 years old I had the skill sets that I had the world experience that I had, then I would have also the limitations that came with that. So lack of experience and all of this. So if I went after a particular idea and tried to continue after that idea and say, I'm going to be this thing no matter what because it's my destiny, then I'm going to have limitations on how to achieve that. So, if I keep trying it and it doesn't work, what do people normally say? Even if they say in the beginning or at some point in time, they make the declaration because they feel that it's one of the most rewarding experiences that they're having, that's my destiny. That's my fate to be this way or to go this direction in my life. Then you hit limitations after that excitement. And most of the time, what I've experienced in myself and also with others, and I read excessively as well. I read all the time. So the books that I've come across and people that have done these kinds of things that like to default fate or destiny are the ones that usually write fantasy. They don't really write a whole lot of nonfiction. They don't have a whole lot of things to prove necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that's every case, but I can say that there's a reason why there's not a lot of people that write how to do certain things out of the entire population. You can get a lot of self-help books, but out of the entire population, if it were actually as successful as, people would like for it to be, then it would just be simple. Everybody would have a damn book for the most part. So with that being said, here's one of my experiences that I get out of people, and I also had for myself, the it wasn't meant to be conversation. That's one of them that just gets me quick. It wasn't meant to be. By whose standards? Who's the one that made the statement that it is or isn't to be? Is it a vague position and curiosity lacking evidence that actually states that is way that something is supposed to go? Do you have a personal friend that's supposedly making these things up for you? Are they visible, or what is the position of that individual that is telling you or writing out your life story? And if there is a life story that has written out, then why would something take such great effort to write out your life and then have a position that you can potentially try to bargain or wager your way through it or change it? So you see, there's so many different variables that come into this, like continuing to plead to something, right? And please make this different, change this thing. you find that these individuals, they just don't have the capacity to really get past that. They hit a wall, and the wall is what stops them. They don't actually know how to break through. So for me and the experiences that I've had, is the destiny and all the rest of that stuff is you have a specific skill set that you've acquired up until that point in time in your life. It doesn't mean you have all of the world's knowledge or all the universe's knowledge on how to achieve whatever particular idea you have. You have your own perceived limit. You have your own perceived knowledge. You have your own limitations. And if you choose not to pursue, the next stage of what it takes in order to achieve it, it's kind of like trying to walk around your house with a tool belt with only 3 tools, and your house actually has a multitude of different tools requirements, and you're trying to use a Phillips screwdriver on everything whenever there's a straight slot requirement, or you need a drill and you try to use a hammer instead. You see, the job becomes much more difficult. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means it's much more challenging than it has to be. So that's the same thing. Lacking knowledge or lacking any information in order to accomplish or overcome a challenge or accomplish an intention, it requires knowledge. And all of the hardships that you're experiencing, and my experience of this has been knowledge gaps. It's what you do not know or who you do not know that is restricting your ability to achieve your goal. A lot of times the what and who are both the same. So this has been my experience. People get to that and then I don't know what to do next. Must not be meant to be. It isn't what's meant to be. Everything happens for a reason and all the rest of this. I am one that actually says I am a cause for my life. I am always seeking out the most efficient and effective way to achieving whatever goal it is that I have without creating harm for others or minimizing harm for others. Now, if my harm on others is based out of someone else's vice and desire for control over me or another person, and my actions reduce their ability to hold control over myself or another person, they can perceive that as harm. I personally do not see that as harm. I find that to be a limitation for both myself and the person trying to hold me back or hold the other person back or hold them under control. Now, that again can be perceived as harm to the individual that is holding control. Most people do not have a dynamic position for being able to see beyond what has been given. So I like to see from my own perspective, and that's it. You get this problem with people, or this challenge of people, where they can't get out of themselves to see from another parameter or another perspective. It's always them. They're always at the center, and everything that happens in their life is happening to them rather than just actions happening, and they happen to be in the way of those actions or in the center or at cause of those actions. They would rather just sit aside and say, things happen to me. I don't like the way they happen. You see, that's a disempowering context. That does not help you succeed. It doesn't help you seek out more knowledge or experience in order to achieve a certain goal. The position that I see when somebody says it's not meant to be, and they do not seek out other opportunities or positions, whether it's not meant to be in a certain relationship. That's such a dynamic statement, so it's almost a can of worms to open, or let's say a rabbit trail of another can of worms. But the simplicity of it is another human being is something you cannot control, and you are best not to objectify. Most people objectify others in relationships, and then they say when the relationship doesn't work out that it wasn't meant to be, rather than looking back at the errors in their experience with that relationship, whether that's the judgments they made, the presuppositions that they had going into the relationship. There are so many different variables that are actually there that the person that says that relationship wasn't meant to be commonly overlooks or only looks at macro values of that relationship. Maybe that they recognize they weren't very good communicators and the other person helped them recognize that. But the other person also created enough emotional harm or hurt that they have decided to avoid maybe that particular haircut or that kind of car or that type of dress or the way that person speaks or whatever it is that is a signifier for that individual that they were in the relationship with. This is called baggage. We do it regularly. We carry this kind of stuff around and then we infect it onto other people. So I'm saying all of this because these are the things that stop us from what we wish to accomplish in our life. We get so caught up in the day-to-day mundane values and the trivial variables or the things that we're unwilling to work on, but we keep getting into class. It's like going to class wanting to graduate, but you keep failing a class and you're not actually looking at why you're failing. You just keep showing up saying, I'm supposed to pass the class because I showed up. I showed up. I didn't try to work on myself to develop myself for what the curriculum of the course is about. I just showed up and I should pass. That's the lunacy of it when people go from relationship to relationship with the intention of to graduating into the next best thing. The grass is always greener, that kind of nonsensical belief system or position. So I tell you all of that because this is what people focus their time on. I wrote an article called, and I did a video on, I have my PhD in twerking. I got my PhD in twerking. It was intended to be a little satire, and I got a bit serious about it because the general gist of it is that people focus so significantly on such minor elements and aspects of their life, but it has such high priority because their peers have put a lot of pressure and position, viewpoints, mental occupation over a particular position, saying that maybe I need the best boyfriend or girlfriend. I need to have that star of a romantic partner because that's going to make my life complete. If it's in the position that you require that your partner makes more money than you, or that you don't need to worry about making that much money because your partner will be the one that supports you once you get the right partner. And then it's supposedly a fairy tale moving forward, or some variation of a fairy tale with a little bit of a nightmare moment, or maybe a bad dream moment inside of the fairy tale, but ultimately still supposed to be a fairy tale. You see, that's a presupposition. You enter into the relationship with this idea that the relationship is supposed to go a certain way. You focus on that. You start to cultivate yourself, and you're working on yourself, but only in the aesthetic values and only in the superficial plane, being that maybe you know how to shake your ass a certain way. And you spend all of this time trying to master the idea of dancing or the positions of dancing and keeping up with new waves and fads, and you spend all the money necessary to buy the designer jeans or whatever else it is. And then you expect your relationships to go smoothly once you find the right one. Maybe the guy you just met at the bar or the woman you just met at the bar seems to be great. You'll spend 3 to 6 months, kind of just intertwined with that individual and expect them to go from, a partier to a husband or wife within the matter of minutes, right? Or in a very small flicker of time. Maybe you want them to go from that, which both of you enjoyed, but now it's time to settle down and try to figure out how to raise a family or start a future together. You see, your focus isn't on self-development, communication, and depth of communication, not the superficial values of communication. Those values are available in the aesthetic value, like in the sense of body language and things like that. You do learn a specific position of body language that is the most effective to achieve in at least initial attention. Long term, though, it doesn't last. A continuation of, well, I still shake my ass pretty well, or I still move my hips the right way, or I still have this big chest, this big broad chest, or I still have this attribute that drew this person in the first place. Substance is missing because you have not developed yourself in that area. You see, we're stuck on these things. Most people are stuck on this. They find mediocrity to be satisfactory. They get jobs where they do very mundane tasks. They can't wait for their vacations. They post things on Facebook and social medias or say things regularly like, I'm so glad it's Friday. And that just, to me, that says that my week isn't something worth valuing. But whenever the weekend comes along, look out, I'm going to overdo it, or I'm going to do everything that I can to validate my life in these 2 days. And it's a vicious cycle that you get stuck in. So if you want to develop your life, you first have to start handling the things that you spend most of your time doing. Most people spend a lot of time doing things that only create momentary satisfaction or immediate gratification, but not long-term gratification. These are some areas you can actually start to self-audit. What kind of savings plan do you have? How much money do you have in your bank account in the savings plan? What are you doing as far as actually building your future educationally and financially? Are you working on a business? Or are you trying to climb a corporate ladder? Are you looking to purchase a home? And what reason are you looking to purchase the home? Is it just because everyone else at your age has their first home, or that it puts you ahead of your peers? What exactly are you doing about your future? How far do you even look into your future on a regular basis? How much time do you think about your future actions or the actions necessary to achieve your future, not fantasizing about what you want to accomplish, but putting those actions in place that are necessary to accomplish what you have fantasized about. If you just sit there and fantasize about something, but you put no actions in it, you tell me by your character's actions, you're not that serious, but you're more serious about the immediate challenges that are getting laid the next time, or finding somebody who appreciates the fact that you like to lay around with, boxer briefs and watch television until late in the afternoon on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or whatever days you prefer to do that. What is it exactly that you think is the most valuable position to validate your life? So you see, these are the ways that we have to actually start addressing these things if you truly wish to overcome these variables that continue to basically haunt you. Now, with that being said, if you want to really get started on your life and create that thing where other people go, man, I really wish I had your life, right? And that's people looking in that don't quite understand it yet, but they see that you're living something that they would consider a dream, more so than just the mundane daily activity that barely ever gets even an eyebrow raised. So the first thing we have to do is address who you currently are. There's an exercise I gave a friend of mine yesterday, or actually one of my coworkers. I gave him yesterday, which is you ask 5 people who you are. Who you are. And when you ask these 5 people who you are, ask them with a safe space to tell the truth, to truly, authentically speak about who you are to them. You're not looking for the negative. You're not looking for the positive. You're not looking for anything other than them telling you generously or authentically, both, who you really are to them. Now, when I did this exercise, I asked my mother. I couldn't get a negative thing out of her. Right? I kept hearing all these positive things, and I really wanted her to tell me all of what she saw me to be. And of course, a mother has a different viewpoint. There's a biased viewpoint that a lot of mothers have for their children. So I didn't quite get a lot of feedback other than, that she considers my life to be a great deal of success because of my intellectual capacity and curiosity for life and passion for living life. So I also asked a couple other people. And what I found was some people, it seemed to me that they were talking about me in such a way that they were talking about somebody I didn't necessarily know, or I felt that I was misinterpreted. So then I started looking at what would cause somebody to view me that way. Now, I'm not saying that I changed my entire life off of this. I looked at it as a pulse to find out how other people view me so that I could address who I wish for other people to see me as, or who I felt I was at the deeper core, and making sure I was congruent with that person and not being who the other person thought I should be at the moment, right? I became very congruent with myself. And it's a daily activity. It's a daily function. I have to, it's easy to be another way because most people around you are the other way. They're not congruent with themselves, and they basically spend a lot of time building their resume. It doesn't matter who you fool in life. Your life is yours, and it's your responsibility. So you have to take action for that and own it. You really have to own that. So after asking 5 people, I recognized that there were several people in my life that did not see me as I saw myself. Now, this exercise stems from the question, where is your life? Now, you have to hear the question again, most likely. Where is your life? Can you point to it? I promise you can point to your life. Now, if you point at yourself, like say I point here at my chest, right? That's actually not. That's my chest. There's some skeletal system in there. There's my chest plate. There's my trachea, my esophagus in here. There's tissue. There's blood. There's all kinds of things. But that's my body. That's not my life. So in order to really understand where your life is, you have to find it in others. Taylor. Like Taylor's got a part of my life. Taylor, come here. All right. So where exactly is your life? You'll find the answer to this question by asking the 5 questions, or the 5 people that I gave you the homework assignment on. Ask 5 people in your life who you are to them. Get them to go as detailed as possible. You have to also make sure they feel safe to tell you the truth. You are not to scold them off of what they say. You're not to rebuttal what they say. You are to sit silently and listen to what is being said. When I asked the gentleman yesterday and gave him this homework, he asked me, he said, "Great, you're one of the first people. Who am I to you?" And as I was telling him who he was to me, he interrupted me a couple of times just to say, you know, this isn't, no, you, like, really, it was to interject, right? You misinterpreted, or what I meant to be, or what I meant to say. You see, that contaminates the question. Do not do that. After they are complete, there's probably other things that they'll come to awareness to later. But the immediate and initial is always make sure it's safe for them. Don't scold them. Don't get upset or whatever. This is for you to be responsible. As soon as you ask them this question, sit in being responsible. Own what they know about you. Own it. You did it. You did it. You did exactly what was necessary for them to come to that conclusion. Now, of course, other people sit in their own position of insecurities. It is not for you to adopt what they say. It's for you to own what they say. Now, what I mean by that, and the distinction is, to own it means that you're accepting that they felt that way about it, that you did something for them to experience you that way, something. It may not have been 100% of all your actions, but you did something. Now, you get to stand in, I was responsible for that. To every bit of the degree that I was responsible in it. Not 1%, not 5%. I am 100% responsible for all of my actions interacting with this person. And I was almost certainly not completely congruent with who I feel I am at the center. Now, as you continue this experiment, you'll get into the next phase. First and foremost, this is what you are best to explore in. Now, there's plenty of rebuttals that you can go into. In part 2 of this exercise, you'll find out exactly what that is. So what do you do with this? All right, so owning it, not adopting it. If you adopt it, adopting in this context is to fully take on that that's who you are. Like, you start changing who you are so that you can meet what that person sees you as, which, by the way, you are kind of doing that already. You just don't necessarily know it. It's an indirect action based out of the way that individuals interact, the way you interact with somebody and the way they interact with you, and how they continue to speak to you and which way they speak to you affects your psyche in such a way to adapt towards that particular behavior. So what I'm actually bringing to your awareness is that you can become very responsible for it and continue to stay true to you. Now, to make an example of exactly what I'm talking about there is, how many times have you gone up to somebody after you said to yourself, I don't want to behave like that again. I don't want to jump into jokes on other people, or I don't want to look at or talk that way about other people, or whatever. You're making a stand to make a difference because there's something that you used to do that is a behavior you don't want to continue to do. And you tell yourself, I'm good. I'm not going to do this again. I'm never going to do that again. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like I'm being myself. I feel like I'm being someone else to whatever reasons, right? And then you go and you meet or you see this person, and then all of a sudden they start their thing that you're familiar with, and then you just get sucked in as if you didn't even try to resist it. Or you did try to resist it, but by the end of the conversation, you felt yourself either speaking or thinking the way that you used to. That's all part of those indirect behaviors that shift the way that we behave. So with that being said, this is how we start creating our life. If you want your own purpose, you also have to start working on your life, the way that you want your life to go. And then you get curious about exactly what you don't know about achieving that. Because I can tell you right now, if you don't already have it achieved, then you don't know how to do it yet. Otherwise, why wouldn't you do it, right? You can have the architecture of it. You can have a great deal of structure with a step-by-step process. But just simply the fact that you haven't done it yet is the inexperience that you're lacking, or the experience that you're lacking in order to achieve it is the action of doing it. So there's something that you don't know because you haven't done it yet, even though you can conceptually talk through it with anyone who has done it, and they'll say, yeah, you're absolutely on track. But you not doing it and just having conversations around it are that condition, that variable that you don't know yet. You don't have the experience yet in actually accomplishing it. So if you wish your life to go a certain way, then get into action. Why build your life? Because it's greatly successful. It brings a great deal of satisfaction to your life. Rather than feel you lived your life for other people, in a sense that you had to do things in order for other people to survive, in such a way that you were a servant, which is what a lot of people feel when they work for a paycheck and they don't really live into working for a passion or working for a cause other than paychecks, like a life cause. Then they feel like they've been used as a servant. And those are the ones that are usually pretty upset or get quick to anger or hostility, or the ones that have high levels of stress. So with that, this is why you start. This is why you do what you do in order to start your life. To start the why to creating your life, to create your own self-purpose. Now, you start educating yourself on what you don't know. You start getting curious. You start researching. Look at it in a way you haven't looked at it before. Really take on that you need to be a student to achieve that. You have a curriculum that you need to learn, and that curriculum is assigned by what you are calling success. You start seeking out other people that have accomplished something similar. Start conversations with people. Just get curious, and you'll start to find a great deal of success inside of being curious. Oh, all right, guys. This is Chad Everett Brochures. I'm the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Please share it if you like. Please comment below. I'm always open to that if you like it. Now I've got a series of videos. If you want the most up-to-date videos, subscribe to the channel. You'll get notifications. And please, by all means, you can direct people to me. You can also comment and have a dialogue. So with that, if you feel that you have a contribution to growing up in the wilds of suburbia from a unique perspective that you've gone through, experiences that you've had, then by all means, please reach out. I do look for guests for the show, and your life has been something worth sharing. I promise. It's just a matter of how we actually articulate that. So with that, again, this is Chad Everett Brochures. This is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. And look for the next portion of the exercise I gave earlier and asking people who you are to them, 5 people. And I will give you part 2 of that exercise in the near future. So look for that video. It's coming up. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. And I look forward to our next video.